You know, we're now going to switch gears a little bit because we are privileged to hear from two doctors who will share some of their knowledge and experience of working with patients and their experiences in using medical marijuana. Dr. William Shaffer is a board-certified neurologist who specializes in the treatment of MS. Dr. Shaffer, originally from Wheaton, Illinois, prior to medical school, he enjoyed life as a college dropout drummer in a band in the 1990s. That's what I hear, as I'm just reading it. Dr. Shaffer was diagnosed with MS in 2002. While in medical school, he completed a fellowship in MS at the University of Chicago in 2009 and is on the staff at the Banner North Colorado Medical Center in Greeley. He's appeared in Fortune and Money magazines and in the New England Journal of Medicine as part of National Multiple Sclerosis Society campaign to raise awareness about the illness that he both treats and suffers from. Please welcome Dr. Shaffer.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you guys for all coming out. I've never been to one of these MS men's groups, and they're really important. They really are. I want to thank the National MS Society for setting this up, and then also everybody that's been up here telling their story and giving presentations, okay? This is my first medical marijuana presentation, formally, even though I'm a big proponent of medical marijuana and I write for medical marijuana cards in my practice all day long. I think it's an important thing. So first we have to get some information about what marijuana is. Marijuana is the plant, or the top part of the plant, cannabis, and I think people mix that up. Marijuana is that dried crushed flower tops, that's THC. There's that big long word that's THC that I'm not going to pronounce. THC is what gives you the high. Within the plant, though, there are 500 different chemicals. Cannabinol, CBD, that's what you'll hear about a lot in upcoming talks about marijuana. It's one of the chemicals that doesn't make people high. In fact, some people think that CBD can counteract THC. All right? So whenever people talk about medical marijuana, it's not just to get you high. Okay? The long history. I'm not going to go through everything, but at 2730 BC, this Chinese emperor, father of Chinese medicine, was already exploring the use of cannabis. Look at how far back that is. Found that it could help with malaria and poor memory. But even back then, if you use too much, you might have some side effects. I always tell people, whatever you're doing, anything in moderation, okay? Although I don't believe the overuse caused blindness. You might see things, but not blindness. So in 1840, an Irish physician, he wasn't just drinking. William O'Shaughnessy used cannabis to treat seizures, menstrual cramps, and nausea. The use of cannabis for medical purposes soon spread to England and America. It started back before BC, right? It took a long time to get to America. George Washington, you guys all know George Washington, right? He cultivated hemp on his farms. And hemp could be used for ropes and other products like that. You guys all heard about George Washington's bad teeth and wooden teeth and all that? He probably had some pain too, right? He was probably using something on his farm to help with his pain too, but they don't like to talk about that. Which it does help with pain. So soon cannabis was being used as an ingredient in dozens of things. In America, we had a lot of cannabis in different products, and people didn't really know about this. And it was okay. My favorite part is how cigarettes were used to treat asthma. So things were a little funky back then. In the early 1900s, though, in the US, laws designed to target heroin and cocaine abuse started focusing on cannabis. The reason for this was in 1910, during the Mexican Revolution, a lot of immigrants started fleeing their country. And they brought along something that they like to use for intoxication and relaxation. It was called marijuana. That's how it is spelled. Just like a lot of things in America, though, we quickly Americanize things. And the name actually changed from marijuana to marijuana.
Don't tell Donald Trump.
Oh, he knows. He's not telling us everything. So when marijuana came with the Mexican immigrants, a lot of people were fearful of these immigrants. And a lot of people used that prejudice that these Mexicans are bringing this terrible drug, even though cannabis was already in a lot of products that America had. They talked about how marijuana would make people crazy. They called it loco weed. But that's really not the case. But that started the ball rolling to get all these laws against marijuana. Even though, before that, for thousands of years, cannabis was okay. So, in an effort to marginalize the new immigrant population, first anti-cannabis laws were targeted at the term marijuana, this foreign thing that these crazy Mexican people were bringing to our country, even though we already had it in our country. So then they started these laws and programs to try to outlaw it. Has anybody seen the movie Reefer Madness?
Oh, yeah.
It's absurd, right? And the people that made this movie made it, they were against marijuana. They showed people going crazy and doing all that running and jumping out windows. Man, you're not getting your ass off the couch, right? You're not going to go jump out a window. You're going to relax. But that's what they were trying to say. This crazy loco weed, we got to get rid of it. Look what it does. In 1937, the Marijuana Tax Act was enacted. Like everything in America, though, money plays a part. So you've got these big families and their farming businesses, right? DuPont, Hearst, the Mellon families. Hemp would really impact their business, right? They didn't want that to happen. The AMA, the American Medical Association, way back then, actually said this tax is wrong because you're taxing physicians prescribing cannabis, which is different from marijuana. Okay? Also, pharmacies selling cannabis and retail farmers were charged with it. So the AMA back then was saying there's a big distinction between marijuana and cannabis. Okay? It shouldn't be lumped together. And a lot of people do that. Oddly enough, I'm up here talking about medical marijuana. I have cotton mouth like you wouldn't believe. I kept telling myself I gotta bring my drink up here, but I forgot. So ultimately, the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937 was ruled unconstitutional. But in the 60s, you know, free love, drugs, all that stuff, that was really kind of taken over. But then Congress jumped in and got this thing called the Comprehensive Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Act in '70. That's when marijuana, cannabis, even though they really are different, was classified as a Schedule I drug. Schedule I drug is the highest level, the worst, right? High potential for abuse. There's no accepted medical use. Lack of accepted safety. Schedule I, the vote just happened in August again to keep it as Schedule I. Can you believe that?
No.
Obama, who originally was pro-medical marijuana, pro-marijuana, I mean, he grew up in Hawaii. He actually inhaled, unlike Bill. But he changed his tune, as they typically do, you know, when they get into office. The whole reason it became Schedule I, so Nixon, Tricky Dick, got together a committee, right? Ironically, the committee, or the commission, was called the Shaffer Commission. That's my last name. And this commission was a bunch of people that were against marijuana. So they were happy to do this. So Nixon said, let's gather up all this information and show how terrible marijuana is. Finally, we'll show everybody how terrible it is. After gathering all this data, though, an extensive amount of data, more than probably has been done in a long time, they came back to Nixon and said, you know, Dick, I hope they said it to him. It's not bad. We can't find anything wrong with this stuff. Rather than say, you know, after you gathered all that information, we're going to say it's not as bad as people think. But no, Nixon said, we're going to keep it where it's at and say it's a terrible thing. The report was met with a lot of resistance. And that was Nixon and all the people that believed like he did. In 1996, 23 states in Washington, D.C. passed laws allowing marijuana to be used for medical conditions. FDA is still against it, though. Okay? And that's a rough thing, right? FDA could come in and say, I know it's legal in Colorado, but we want to screw you over. So this will just be quick, but cannabinoids, including THC, also CBD, interact with many receptors that they're discovering as time goes on. And these receptors are diffused throughout the body. Marijuana can affect so many parts of our body and so many systems. We haven't had that much research, though, because it's been difficult. Because of legality and many other issues. Over 500 chemicals, the 100 cannabinoids, but researchers are learning a lot about these. Oh, thank you.
You just have to have another hand.
I know. It's that cotton mouth, I'm telling you. So CBD, like I said earlier, doesn't give you the high like THC. That's important. And they think that it might, and I wasn't sure if people would catch this, it might even blunt. What? Did do? No? I thought everybody would see that and say that's perfect. You guys, so it might blunt some of THC's high, okay? The existing data that we have does show a lot of promise, but we don't have that much data. It's been hard for researchers to do this for many reasons. Like I said earlier, in August this year, they voted to keep it a Schedule I drug. And that's terrible. It is safer than narcotics. The big drug problem in America is Percocet, Vicodin, and all that stuff. But that's okay. That's free, you know, no problem, no trouble getting in legal issues with that. That's terrible. So the DEA, again, keeping it at a Schedule I. One thing that they did change, though, is before the medical marijuana was really kind of a monopoly where you could only get it from one place, right? They changed that, kept it at Schedule I, but now it might be a little easier. Still very hard for researchers to do what they need to do, which is terrible. You see how it says marijuana is the only substance that the DEA has prohibited from being produced by private laboratories for scientific research. It goes way back to 2730 BC, but it's still hard to get. Hard to get that approved. That's absurd. So the limited amount of research that we have does show benefits. And I know my research is anecdotal, just from what patients tell me. But so many people have had great results from medical marijuana. Not just in spasticity, pain, tremors, insomnia, vertigo, and nystagmus where your eyes move, so many other things. And a lot of times it's hard for me to get somebody to agree to try marijuana. And they're always surprised that the doctor's bringing up marijuana to them. I've had people that for 2 years kept saying, no, 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 but I have really bad pain. No, I'm not going to try that. Finally agreed to try it and said, why the hell didn't I try this sooner? It's the only thing that worked. But they had in their mind that marijuana is a terrible thing, a terrible drug, and we can't do this. So medical marijuana can be smoked, inhaled, eaten, topicals, but you have to have a medical marijuana card, right? When I first got out here in 2009, there were a handful of doctors that were charging people. They just line up at a dispensary and charge them like 150 bucks to fill out the form and send them on their way. Now it's harder for you to get a card in that regard, where you can't just go pay somebody a lot of money for it. It's easier though as far as all the signatures you have to get your card, okay? And there are doctors out there that I hear them say, oh, I'm a big believer in it. Will you write it for your patient? Oh no, I don't want my name on that. And that's stupid. So I write medical marijuana all day long. I'm a big believer in it. But I cannot use it. Where I work, they are anti-drug. I could be hooked on narcotics and that's okay, but they're against marijuana. I'm surprised I haven't been tested because I'm so vocal about it. Part of me thinks they say, we're not going to test him, you know, we know he does what he does, so we'll leave it alone. But I don't want to chance it. But I know it would help many things that I deal with. The insomnia, spasms, all that stuff. But I can't do it. Like I said, I've had a lot of patients and had great results with this. But we don't know enough because doing research has been difficult. It really has been. I was so happy when I met our next speaker because he is interested in doing research and he knows what to do. And it kind of threw me off because I didn't think there would be anybody that wanted to get into it and have their name involved with it. But he's doing that, and he's somebody that can push this forward. We're trying to set things up where we can advance it and get patients to do this. But it is a struggle. There are so many people, even just common people, that say, no, I can't do this as a drug, and they'll stay away from it. But it is safer. It is safer than a lot of things out there. Okay, I'm going to end it here because I know we're short on time. Any questions? I don't know how much an eighth costs, but go ahead.
I've got a question. It's related to, well, I was a marijuana smoker for years, and I've had to quit in the last 10, 15 years. I also had to quit cigarettes, and I've got an effect, even if I just smoke a cigarette, it goes to my legs. It affects me somehow by the smoking of the cigarette.
Yeah.
The same with marijuana, even to a much greater extent with marijuana. And but if I vape either one, it doesn't happen. So there's something to do with the burning of marijuana or tobacco that's going on in my body. And I imagine this has got to have something to do with MS. This did not happen until after I was diagnosed with MS. Are you familiar with that at all?
I have heard some people say that that's the case when they do it. And they can only vape, right? Or they can only do edibles.
But are you familiar with anything that could cause what is going on?
That much I don't know because it's still very early in our research. Yes.
So from my personal experience with marijuana, I got a card, and the problem I found was you don't know what you're getting. Everything, they hand you something and say, try this.
Yeah.
It's like saying, well, take a medicine, but how much do you do? And there's very few people I found that could speak knowledgeably about what really works for MS patients, or for the majority of patients that get some relief from spasticity and other symptoms. It was like the Wild West out there.
Yeah, and that is true, because we don't know product to product how they're not regulated as much as something else is. And not all dispensaries are the same. Some you go into and say, hey, I need help with this, and all right, man, try that.
Right.
And that's about all they say to you. And then other places really are knowledgeable and say, this might help with this, this might help with that.
It would be very helpful if there was some centralized organization that could point patients, not just MS patients, but other people who get relief from marijuana, to where they should go, what they should try that would work for them.
Yeah, I agree with you, because when I do fill out the application for somebody to get their card, they always say, so how do I do this? And they think that I'm going to write a prescription saying smoke three joints a day, and yeah, but it's not like that. Call me later in the afternoon. Too early. But,
So I don't think it's been at this point, people who are, turned off because it's illegal in certain parts of the country still and things like that, or that it's a type 1 drug. I think the bigger problem is the misinformation and the lack of information.
that's true. I agree.
So what do we do about it?
And that's why we're trying to
Nobody wants to
push it more in the open. And even people that are experienced, that say, oh yeah, I smoked pot back in the day, I tell them, it's different now, okay? Don't go at it the same way. It is stronger.
Oh, yeah.
But there's so much that has to be learned. For thousands of years, it was fine. America, for like 70 years, longer than that, put a really difficult land on it and barrier. So it's a shame, because we do need to know more information. And it's been hard to do the research. And it's really absurd to me. I think back there and then, yeah.
Did you say you fill out the medical paperwork?
Yeah, but you have to come and see me.
Where you at?
I'm in Greeley.
Oh, that's too far. I can't get there.
I got people that, although they can't get a card, but I get people from Jersey to California in between. But yeah, you have to live in Colorado to get it.
Right.
There's a place in Broomfield where you go,
How much is he gonna pay though?
$60.
Just to fill it out?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a little bit.
Yeah.
I got this guy right here.
So now that recreational pot is approved, why get a medical marijuana card?
Because with recreational, you're gonna pay 25 to 27% sales tax. You're not gonna have the same products. Because people will say that. Why do I need a card? Now I can go buy it, around the corner. For those reasons. You'll pay more and you won't have as many choices.
Yeah, I've experimented with CBDs, Charlotte's Web. Is there a way to get a stronger dose of CBDs?
So that's something that you have to talk to the dispensaries about.
Dr. Shaffer?
I just want to say real quick, I actually work in the medical marijuana field, and there's touch on a couple things there, especially with your question specifically and yours as well about the vaping, before going on some whole diatribe, because it's a rabbit hole, but I would love to talk to you guys afterwards. I can easily address both those questions, or anybody, if anybody has any questions, I just kind of want to put that out there. Yeah, there's a lot of information, and one thing that you said that, ranks yours, all the, like, dispensaries vary very greatly. You might go into one that
Yeah.
just sort of, oh yeah, dude, okay. But other people, like where I work, we very much so pride ourselves on knowing, you know, the ins and outs and what is good specifically for MS patients or cancer patients, or I'm an MS patient, so I know a lot about that specifically.
Which one do you work at?
It's called Northern Lights in Sloan's Lake, right across the street from Sloan's Lake, so on the west side of Denver, Edgewater, Colorado.
Okay, because people ask
For
me,
medical and recreational as well.
well, they'll ask me about areas outside of where I'm at, and I say I have no idea. So that's good to
We're
know.
one of the few places.
Bring
open
cards?
past 7 o'clock. What's that?
Did you bring cars?
I didn't even think about it yet. I wasn't planning on saying anything. So.
Yeah, no, that's good, and he's exactly right. Some are just, everybody's so they're not helpful.
Any kind of questions like that, I've been in the industry for years and know.
Yeah, when patients ask me questions, I say, ask the people at the dispensaries, they know more than I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to put out information, I don't know if this is bad for me to do it, but what I go to is I go to leafly.com, which is just a website you go to, and then you can put your strain information or strain name in there, and it'll tell you what people recommend for pain or insomnia, anxiety, and it'll tell you what strains work best. And I've gone there quite a bit.
And what's it called?
Leafly, leafly.com.
Yeah, I don't know too much about that.
Just check, like I said, I don't want to sit there, you don't pay for it, so I'm not soliciting somebody, but it's just where they're giving out, people put in and they write their opinions and how they felt when they tried the narcotics, or they tried the marijuana.
Yeah.
But it breaks it down by medical, if it's pain, insomnia, whatever, on which strains will help better with this and won't with that.
They're pretty general descriptions, essentially, what he's talking about. But, you know,
Okay.
everything marijuana is an extremely subjective thing.
Right.
Person to person, especially people with autoimmune diseases or whatever, you know, myriad things that marijuana helps with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, you know, the website's pretty good. It's pretty generalized, but a lot of it's kind of trial and error, unfortunately. But,
Right.
Which is, you know.
And you might find something you like and go back and then you can't find it. But something that I always tell people when they say, but marijuana is a drug, that's such a bad thing. Prince didn't drink, smoke, swear, he was a Jehovah's Witness. No drugs. But he could take OxyContin or fentanyl because that was a prescribed drug. And he overdosed on it. Narcotics are just so terrible. But we got this whole thing of people against marijuana, and narcotics should have not been used the way they have been used, but they were. And now that's our big drug issue. It's people come in and they look like junkies, and they always, you know, give me those BS excuses, and they come in hooked on this stuff, not because I prescribe it. And they'll say, I need another prescription. Somebody broke into my car. I'm like, come on, man, give me a better excuse than that. And don't bring in the picture of your pills in the toilet without thinking how the saran wrap is going to reflect the light and I'll be able to tell, okay? I knew you were going to do that, right? This guy. All right, any more questions? I want to get my colleague up here to tell us more. One more.
Actually, I know college, my roommate, he would go out and spend a couple $100 on some marijuana.
Yeah.
Whereas I would do it for $20. But his stuff, boy, it was like you'd smoke some of that and it was like you're getting slapped in the face with a big stick. I mean, there was just, and that's, I guess some of my questions too is that how are they, you know, drinking pure grain alcohol or beer? You know, is that, how many?
And that's something when you go to the dispensaries and talking to the people there that can give you more information about that. But it is still variable.
Yeah.
It is. Okay, well, thank you.